Hey everybody, P.T. Turner, executive producer and host of your Break It Down show, doing today's live introduction. Our guest today is going to be, and this is huge. I mean, we've had a lot of huge guests over the years, so when you get huge, I'm really saying huge. This past week we had Dan Crenshaw. Well, I went to Arizona and I grabbed a couple of really, really notable people. I called it Badass Day. Guest one from Badass Day is the incredible Jay Dobbins, who's an ATF undercover agent who infiltrated gangs and got things done. Holy cow. He's not today, but this was all the same day. By the way, my buddy Dan White drove me around too, and I can't thank him enough for that. After we saw Jay, we drove south to Sierra Vista, where the spy school is, Fort Huachuca, and I got to do a little bit of hometown stomping. But we met up with a legend and today's guest. His name is Don Frye. If you've ever watched UFC fighting or the old days and the video days when they had to go to Puerto Rico to fight, Don is one of those guys, and he beat up people for a living. He has like one of the most incredible fights against a guy named Takayama. If you type in Don Frye with an E on the end of Frye and Takayama into your search field, you will see one of the most brutal hand-to-hand combat fights you've ever seen. It's been compared to the top, Ali and Frazier. So anyhow, Don is a Hall of Famer in the UFC. He's one of the critical pillars in getting this sport off the ground before it could be something. Back in the days when it was just hard and there weren't $100 million paydays coming. That's when Don fought. And so we're going to get a chance to hear from Don, and he's not been talking to the media for quite some time. He's had some really rough medical problems, and now that he's starting to get past that, he's starting to do media, and we were one of the outlets he chose to tell his story to, so we'll get more from Don in the future. But Don Frye, a UFC legend, nicknamed the Predator, has a real rough voice, so you're going to get a chance to enjoy that, and I just can't say enough things. By the way, the last episode, or the last interview that day after Don Frye was Navy SEAL Sawman. So if you know all three of those people, you know what a badass day this was. All right, so Don Frye is coming up, and you guys, I'll put this up in a moment. So I'm just going to whip it together, and you'll have it out here in a second. One thing, as always, to support the show, the best way to do it is, and to help us get more of this great content, is to subscribe. If you like, share, review, comment, buy the T-shirts on the website. If there's something you want on the website, if there's a guest you'd like me to go out and get, I get guests for people all the time. James Galliano is coming up in a couple of weeks. He's a former FBI guy, and we have a great conversation. So this is how you, by participating, by sharing, by telling your friends, hey, look, we're all cooped up. It's Corona time. May as well listen to some podcast while you're working on your chores or fixing the fence or whatever those things are. All right, this intro is getting a little bit long. One last thing I have to always say. One, thank you. Two, Save the Brave. SaveTheBrave.org. Go to Save the Brave, and you will get a chance to help us help veterans who have PTSD. All right, enough about all that stuff. I should shut up because here comes the incredible, badass, the legend, the Predator, Don Frye.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hey, you knotheads. This is Don Frye, and you're listening to the Break It Down show.
Yeah, holy shit. Today's badass day, by the way. We talked to Jay Dobbins, who's an undercover drug agent who, infiltrated the Hells Angels and managed to live. He's been shot at point-blank range, had guns pointed at his head, and still did his job. So he's a badass. And now I'm sitting across from Don Frye, who, if you guys don't know who Don Frye is, all you have to do is type in your Bing search, Don Frye, and then you will instantly see headlines or highlights of you fighting in a variety of styles and places. You are one of the godfathers of this open style of fighting that's out there. Like it's hard to have a more impressive career in the fighting world than you.
Yeah, I am the god, not just godfather, the god. Or the great-grand-godfather or great-great-grandfather.
Yeah, yeah. You have done a lot of fighting, and now, like, you're done with that stuff. What do you do now on a day-to-day basis to kill time?
I just play with my bulldog and lay on my back and stare at the ceiling, and I just play the YouTube computer and all that good stuff. You know, try and learn Latin. I like to read. I was a history major and English minor in college, so I like to get on there and read history and all that good stuff.
What era of history do you like? Like, what's your sweet spot?
I like American history.
Yeah? All right. What era of American history then?
Oh, shit. All of it. Except for the last 10 years. The last 3 were good, but the 8 before that were.
Yeah.
Geez.
Yeah. Why history?
I just, if you don't know your history, you're apt to repeat the same mistake, right?
Yeah. So, sure.
It's it's interesting, see how people succeeded or see how they failed.
Yeah, you're right. Like, how do these things all fit together? When folks say things like Donald Trump's the worst president, we're not trying to have a political conversation, but Donald Trump's the worst president ever. Like, can you name the other presidents? No.
Right.
Like, well, then what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, how do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump's one of the best presidents. I love Donald Trump.
And as a guy that studies history, you've got some context to look at it. Let's talk a little bit about your fighting history. As you see, like, UFC become this multi-billion-dollar organization, and fighters who are not even champions getting 6-figure contracts. Like, you're a plank holder in that. Like, you paved the way back, before, like, they could even barely leave. They had to go to Puerto Rico to fight and all these other kind of crazy places. You had to go to Japan to have a career because it was such a wide open thing that freaked people out. What are your thoughts on when you look and see where it's at now?
Puerto Rico was my first UFC event.
Was it?
Yeah. Before that, Dan Severn got me about 4 or 5 fights across the states here, and before that, I went wrestling in college.
Yeah.
And then got out and I did a 1.5 years pro boxing.
Right.
And some people say I had 1 fight. Some people say I had 2. Well, they're not looking hard enough. I had 8. I think it was 8 fights. And because I think two of my fights were under Don Frye, and the other 6 or whatever were under a different name. So.
Yeah. Why fight under another name?
Well, I grew up as JR because I'm a junior.
Okay.
So I did a couple of fights under Don, and then I had a big blow up with my manager trainer then, and the investment guy said, well, I'm pulling my money if you're not going to dance to this guy's tune.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame him. Is Art Martorian. Art's a very smart man.
Yeah.
He's a very successful businessman. He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
And so he pulled the plug, and so I had to take my wife and come back here, and take odd jobs and then try and fight, on my off time. And I even trained with the all Arnold Army boxing team
right
up
here
in Fort Huachuca.
Yeah. We're in
Sergeant Howie.
Yeah, we're at Fort Huachuca, Arizona area, and right. The All Army boxing team has been there for a long time. When I was here going through spy school and I was in cadre, I thought about jumping back in because I used to box in college. I'm not trying to brag about that. I was in great shape. I had a hard head and I was smart. And I was I would let guys blow out, trying to fight, and I would just put my hands up a whole bunch, and then when they would get tired, all of a sudden I became the world's greatest fighter.
Right.
So
were you fighting sorority boys or what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like junior college stuff. Anyhow,
where'd you go to college at?
Well, I went to a lot of colleges. This was Sac City, and it's funny. We fought one time. Here's Pete's fighting story. We went to like a small prison, not like a big thing, but just like, and they're like, hey, we're going to do like a boxing expo. And so we went there, and like, hey, when you're here, if anything goes off, everybody get back to back in the middle of the ring. Don't move, and if the people start shooting, don't move, sit there. So I'm like, I'm a knucklehead. I'm not even 20 years old yet. Yeah. And I'm like, what in the hell did I get myself into? Now, look, I'm in good fighting shape. I'm ready for any kind of regular fight, but I'm not any good. I just have a hard head and I'm smart. So I look across, and there's this really tall guy, because my arms don't go straight, so my reach is shitty. And I see this black guy, and he's got cornrows. This is in the 80s, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get killed.
He's scary, yeah.
Terrifying. And he's in great shape. And so here's my thing, Don. Here's what I did. They said, touch gloves, come out fighting. I believed them, so I came out and I would throw a lead right hand. I fight left-handed, but I'm pretty right-handed dominant. And so, bam, just a good hard jab right in the nose, right to start the fight. And that's kind of where my trick stopped.
That's it. Yeah.
I didn't know how to end the fight from there. And so I come out, bam, and I hit this guy, and then I start like trying to figure out what he's doing. And then, we're putting on a good show, nothing crazy. And then about maybe 30 seconds in, he ties me up and he's like, go easy. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, I'll put the best show on. Because I also don't want to meet this guy later on.
Right, yeah.
Kick his ass.
He's going to get out eventually.
Yeah. And so we did. We put on a good show. And I'm like, if he fucking goes anywhere near like hitting hard, And so they couldn't tell we were just kind of tapping gloves, but I got to win. And I was so fucking, the moment he was breathing hard in my ear, I was like, oh, thank God.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah. Maybe he was a terrible fighter, but he was just so intimidating.
Yeah, it was like my first world heavyweight championship. Dan Severn got me a fight, Kit Liken Productions. Can't remember the 3 letters, AEW or, AWE or, KKW, I mean, who knows? Yeah. Because it folded after that, that was his grand finale.
Yeah.
Because he was the main event,
right.
Kit Likens, and it looked like him and he find out he fought one of the sparring partners,
yeah.
And it looked like there was a 5-drink minimum just for those guys, it was horrible. But yeah, I fought the guy, Dan was the semi-main event or co-main event, I don't know. And then I was right before Dan, and they had my opponent on the poster, and he looked like The Rock. Big muscle guy, tattoos, the sunglasses. Yeah. You go, holy shit.
Yeah.
This guy got tattoos of sunglasses inside. Yeah. He's got to be tough.
Yeah.
So, I went out there, this guy's going to kill me. So I went out there, started hurting this guy, boom, throwing him around, whacking him. And I look at I hear her yelling, and look at my corner. There's Dan and a couple other guys going, take it easy, take it easy. Take it easy. Hell, the guy has tattoos and sunglasses.
Exactly. Yeah. But the mental part of it, and again, as a shitty fighter, it was terrifying. It really impacted how I did things. So you and Dan go way, way back then. Like you guys aren't just friends just now, but you've been lifelong friends at this point.
Oh, yeah, half my life, yeah. Dan was the assistant wrestling coach at Arizona State, underneath Bobby Douglas,
Yeah.
And because Dan was, the best wrestler come out of ASU.
Yeah.
And I was one of the worst. Bobby, God bless Bobby Douglas, he tolerated me,
Yeah. So were you a better wrestler than you were like a regular fighter, or?
I don't know. I'm much better fighter until I started getting hurt. But yeah, wrestling, I was, like Bobby. One time, Bobby, after one of the matches, Bobby says, Don, I think your social life's getting in the way of your wrestling.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
Pussy and beer,
Yeah.
The rest is just second.
How about fighting in the bars? Were you quick to fight at all? Or?
No, I didn't like to fight in the bar. I'm real dumb. I'm the guy who, you'll insult me, and then the next day I'll go, wait, that guy insulted me.
I should have punched that guy.
Yeah, I should have,
We had Tony the Tiger Lopez on. He's a multi-time Fight of the Year guy, multi-time world champion. And he just looks like, your abuelito now. He's like this Mexican grandpa guy. But then you see his hands. Like, I shook your hands, and I'm like, that's a fighter's hands. Like, your hands are just hard, like they're made out of bricks. And his hands are bigger than they're supposed to be. He's got fighter's hands. And I'm like, so does it ever, do you ever get the urge, like when you're in a bar to say something or he's like, I don't back down, but I'm not trying to cause any trouble. But if someone says something, I let him know. And I'm like, what do you let him know? He's like, so the other day, and it's like literally met the other day. And this is a 50-something-year-old man. He's like, the other day, this guy was talking to me and he was challenging me. And I'm like, you better watch out. I'm pretty fast. And like, you get into a fight with a guy like, he could be, it doesn't matter how old Tony Tiger Lopez is,
The instinct, the muscle memory's there, you know?
Yeah. And that hand is like that anvil over there. It's just hard,
I've fired off without realizing, without telling myself to do it. You know? Next thing you know, the guy's on the ground. You go, fuck, I got to go. I got to get out of here.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
I saw some guy named Rick going that way. And then, so you ultimately have this huge fighting career, But at some point, you were still jobbing, being a firefighter. When did you go like, this is what I do, and this crazy-ass, more open style of fighting is what I need to do?
Yeah.
Because you didn't go like professional wrestler. You didn't go with straight boxing.
No. Like I said, we started the submission. After the UFC came around, everybody started these little submission tournaments, around. And then, some guys would, promote a fight. And so, I did a bunch of submission stuff for a year and a half, I don't know. And then I called up Dan and said, "Hey, Dan, you remember me?"
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, "Yeah." He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, can you get me in on this UFC thing?"
Yeah.
I said, "Sure." So, like I said, he got me a few fights throughout the country. And then when he was getting ready for the Ultimate One, he trained up there in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And I called him. He said, "Yeah, come on up," And so I went there, and I was this chief throwing dummy for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
He put knots all over my knots.
But that's your job, right? Is to go out there and be tough and put some work in.
Yeah, the sparring partner, you're a target.
Yeah,
you're not supposed to take a cheap shot.
Right.
And if I'm the fighter training and I'm working with you.
Yeah.
We go down, you better take the fall. You better take the injury.
Right.
Because if I take the injury, we're all broke.
Yeah. Right. So when did you figure out that this is what you were going to do, though? Like, when did it become your reality?
Shit. I think after I won that first world championship, it was up there at Battle Creek, Michigan at Kellogg Arena, on New Year's Eve event.
Yeah.
And I think it was 95, 96, New Year's Eve. And, you get your fight and then you get cleaned up and you go out and watch. And, like Takayama was there, the Shamrock brothers are there, and a couple other names,
Yeah.
This is where I belong,
It's funny, Frank Shamrock is going to be on the show on Monday.
Frank's a good guy, man. Don't tell him I said that. But
I won't. I'll tell him he said you was a son of a bitch.
Yeah,
and Don says you got half an ass if you come near him.
Yeah,
I'll challenge him for it.
I'm still missing my watch.
Yeah, exactly. So you win the championship, and it sounds funny to say I won the world championship, and that's when I figured out I could do this. But really, in that time, this was barely legal, only
brand
seen
new
on videotape. I saw your fight when I was in Germany shortly after that because I'm in the Army. And
which fight?
I think it was that one, either that one that was that New Year's fight, like I saw it a few months later.
Really?
Because they started putting these. This is like a German video store right across from the barracks where I lived, and they would put these things out, and that's how I discovered all that early UFC, all of those early attempts to make this into something. So. I maybe not been that fight, but it was a fight from that era of you and everything else, and like the Grand Prix style of the early UFC fights.
Yeah, we did the tournaments.
Right.
My first UFC tournament was UFC 8 in Puerto Rico. Yeah.
But when you look at the event, like the production of what it is now to go to a UFC fight versus back then, you couldn't look around and go, "This is going somewhere." You had to be like, "What the fuck am I doing?"
Yeah.
But this is also what you wanted to do.
Yeah, it was a carnival sideshow. It really was, But Bob Meyerowitz was a great guy. Art Davies a great guy,
Yeah.
When Coleman beat to hell, UFC 10, they paid all my hospital bills. They paid for my. I had to go. My younger brother was living at Tennessee at the time, and he had driven down to Alabama, and so I had to go up with him and hole up for a week, to heal up before I could get on a plane, and they paid for the airplane change,
Yeah. So there was enough money that you could see that you're like, this is something I can continue to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. How terrifying is it to go in against somebody you don't really have, like there's not tape on them.
No.
You're just making that shit up. How do you prepare for someone like Coleman or, imagine if you look across the ring and it's, who was that Greco-Roman Russian guy from back then? He didn't ever do UFC, but he was like unbeatable.
Oh, yeah.
Alexei Karelin.
Alexei Karelin.
Like you stare across
the
that
experiment.
Guy. Yeah, the experiment. Yeah. And you like, even if you knew who he was because you were a wrestler, like what do you even do? Like, we're not fighting Greco-Roman here.
A lot of your wrestlers and judo players or judo fighters, they don't like get punched in the nose.
Aha. Okay.
You know, I mean, it really takes a lot to get punched in the nose.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
or in the lip, and then to stay there. Most people will turn their back and leave, you know.
Right.
Say, I'm good, you know, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta go find another line of work.
Yeah. There is something to being hit in the face and going, I can take that.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Absolutely.
You know?
I don't care how strong you think you are, how good of a punch you could throw, you know, how fast of a kick. If you can't take a punch, all that means nothing.
Yeah. Speaking of the Shamrocks, the last time I saw, was it Ken? Yeah, I think it was Ken Shamrock fighting against Tito. You can't beat up Ken Shamrock. You may beat him because he's older and slower and everything, but you're going to have to whoop him the entire fight. Right. You're not going to submit him. You're not going to knock him out. He's just going to keep coming forward. And that's like the scariest kind of opponent, the kind of opponent that you have to constantly put down, you know, terrifying.
It's a battle, from bell to bell. You know?
Right. So when you look at today and where things are at and you compare it to back then, would you, like if you were to come up now, whatever, like you would have to be a lot more, maybe more well-rounded, or what do you think? Or would you still just, because you were primarily a striker, right?
No, I was a wrestler and a striker.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
You know, I wrestled in college.
Yeah, you were good at wrestling. Yeah.
You know, I was good. I wasn't great.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I went nowhere with it, you know. And the really good ones and the great ones go somewhere.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I did those 8 boxing, it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me to get punched in the face. So come fight time, you know, and the thing is also I wrestled in front of large crowds. And I'd box in front of large crowds, so the crowd didn't affect me negatively. You know, a lot of them people go out there and they see the crowd and they see all these people staring at them, the lights and, you know, the ice smoke, you know, and the music, and they piss themselves. They just freeze up.
So a lot of folks say things like, "I would get in the ring and take one punch from Mike Tyson for $40 million."
That's not the idea. You know?
Okay.
The idea is get in the ring and win. You know? Not to get punched out.
Right. But I mean, also there's the whole thing where like Mike Tyson punches at a professional level.
Yeah.
You get punched by him.
They don't know.
And you don't get unpunched.
People don't know.
Yeah.
You know, majority of people are really stupid when it comes to fighting. Yeah. There's a difference between an athlete, a regular person, a weekend athlete, an athlete, and a professional athlete, you know, or even a semi-pro athlete, you know. That's something I'm trying to talk to Severin about also. You know, he's going to do this King of the Beast fights. You know, he wants to do amateur and pro. Yeah. And I says, you know what, You need a semi-pro league. You know, the whole world needs a semi-pro league because most of these guys walking around claiming to be a professional, you're not a professional. Yeah. You got paid $200. You know, a professional is somebody who earns their living doing that, you know, who can make enough money to do just that. You know, you don't have to go to your job. Be an accountant, you know, and then after your 8 hours of accountant work, go to the gym for 2 hours, you know, and then run a couple miles on Saturday and Sunday. No, that's not a professional athlete. Right. You know, you got to be able to be at the level where your whole source of income and livelihood is the fight game, or football, or baseball.
Yeah. How many hours a week do you put in as a professional fighter? Like if you're in training season, not necessarily training for a fight, but overall maintenance, how many hours a week is that to be a pro and maintain?
I would train 8 hours a day, probably 6 on Saturday, or 4 to 6 on Saturday, and then on Sunday just take off and just go for a 3 or 4 mile run and then hit the bag for an hour.
Yeah.
You know, easy day.
Yeah, easy day. No problem. Right? Yeah. And then you have to save your money between these things and live off of the money that you earn, right? Yeah. Again, to be a prize fighter, an actual professional, you know, that money, you got to pay everybody else.
You're damn right.
And then you got to pay them to show up to train with you.
They don't take into account the the training expenses. Even your cornerman doesn't realize that, know. I mean, because he's not paying, you know. He just sees the guys show up. After every workout, I would take my guys out for dinner, and then when we had a fight, they took a few days off. I'd pay them for their time off work, and then I'd have to pay, if Pride or UFC would pay for, 3 tickets, I would have to pay for all the rest. Yeah. And then I'd pay for the hotel rooms for them too. Yeah.
And you got to feed those guys.
Yeah. Because, they got me there.
Right. And if you're the 7th guy on the card, you ain't getting that deal. Right. You were going to fly yourself there. You're going to fly your mom or whoever else.
Yeah.
And then you walk out and if you're coming up, you lose money when you go on these big tickets. How much time do you spend thinking when you're in the ring? Like, okay, you're fighting Sakuraba or one of these other guys. Like, how much time are you spending going, really cognating actual thoughts and planning? And are you ever distracted? Like, look at that lady. She's got huge tits. I'm going to talk to her after the fight. Like, how much of that goes on?
I was when I was a boxer, yeah. I mean, because, I wasn't serious about it,
Yeah.
So I'd be looking at the tits, But yeah, I mean, afterwards, after the fights, then you see the tits,
Yeah. They come up to you. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're no longer working. Yeah. That Sakuraba fight is insane. That whole thing when you guys are just so for
never fought Sakuraba.
Well, what's that guy's name then? Who's
Takayama?
Takayama. I can't.
Yoshihiro Takayama.
That fight is crazy. You guys sat there.
What a numbnut, huh?
I know.
God dang! Stupid. You come up, tell me the greatest fight you ever saw, and you can't tell me the guy's name.
Wrong. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they go. They usually say that big, tall Chinese guy. He's not Chinese.
Japanese.
Yeah, he's Japanese.
Yeah.
Blonde
hair.
He's not. Yeah, he's not Chinese. He's Japanese.
Did I say Chinese?
No, no. I'm trying to talk here, but you keep trying to tell a story. Jump in anytime. And look, learn the man's name because he deserves it.
Yeah,
he fucking deserves it. And now, he's a quadriplegic because God bless him. A few years back, he severed his spinal cord in his neck doing a pro wrestling match.
Yeah. Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. God bless him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys live a hard life. Your body's beat up. Hell, my body's beat up from combat, and your body's way more beat up than I am. That's hard. It's hard living.
It is. Because you pack 10 years into 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And doctor said, you got the spine. 10 years ago when I got my first back surgery. The doctor said, "Yeah, you got an 80-year-old spine."
Yeah.
And he said they're only designed to be set for 70.
So I guess that begs the question: regrets?
Yeah, I wish I'd trained harder. I wish I never did the drugs. I wish, that's when my career and my life took a shit. Is when I over-medicated myself. Because you get to hurting so bad. You take the pills, and then you don't feel anything, and you enjoy not feeling anything.
Yeah.
And then you go in there stupid. I took my first pill before a fight. Before I think before the Takayama fight, and then before the Shamrock fight. And then it just. It was steamrolled downhill from there, I remember, it's like it increases your heart rate and decreases your oxygen intake, and so it's like having a mini heart attack while you're out there fighting. I remember when I fought Ken, I'm like, God dang, I'm not moving. What the hell's wrong with me? You don't recognize it because you're taking them every day, and then. When I fought, I can't think of his name now. The Japanese judo Olympic champion. He got. I was really stoned on that one. He got me in the arm bar. And pop. I go, wow, dude, he's breaking my arm.
Is that common, do you think? Are your peers doing, and from that era, let's not talk about
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
It's like hockey players that are like popping Oxycontins, because that's what the job requires,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a rough fucking livelihood.
Yeah.
And if you're not prepared, for the downfalls as well as the upswing,
Yeah.
Pendulum swings both ways, baby.
Yeah. And it definitely they don't stop swinging.
Like they say, what goes up must come down. It's a hard landing, boy.
Yeah. And I imagine you've done better than most. I mean, you got to make a lot of money in your career, and
I got real lucky on that, because I steamrolled through the UFC in '96, except for the Coleman fight, and then that last fight against Tank Abbott, I broke my hand, so I was on the shelf for a couple months. It's supposed to be me and Stan Severn for his World Heavyweight Championship, and obviously I couldn't fight, but Brad Reagan's called up. Masa Saito called up Brad Reagan's looking for a white guy fighter, bad guy, for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And Brad called up the late Jeff Platnick, and Jeff recommended me. God bless him, So Brad called me up, and we talked on the phone. Then he invited me up there to Hamill, Minnesota, where he lived. And Inoki-san and Masa-san come up there, and with Fujita and Elgawa, and we all met, and we all had a great time, man.
Yeah.
And then they hired me.
When you get these deals, it sounds like almost like they come to you and say, hey, you fit the bill for what it is that we're going to do, whether it's, this kind of fighting or this kind of event or whatever. But how do you learn the business? How do you learn to protect your money and pay these guys properly? I mean, yeah, some of it's common sense, like I've got to pay these folks, but no shit, like how do you really run a business like that? How do you pick that up?
Hey, this is P.A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here, and if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
Yeah, some of it's common sense, like I've got to pay these folks, but no shit, like how do you really run a business like that? How do you pick that up?
Well, I was a horseshoer, out of college. I did a couple of odd things, and then my first ex-wife and I had a couple of horses. I'm like, why am I, paying somebody to do this? I can do this.
Right.
I'm young and dumb, and strong. So, I apprenticeshiped with a guy named Stony Newfang down here in Hereford. And I remember we were going down the road one day, and there's a big bull outside the fence.
Yeah.
And he says, that belongs to so-and-so. And he liked that girl's daughter. So he says, he pulled over. He says, let's go herd that bull back into over the gate, over the fence. And so we're walking up to this big old bull, and he says, and by the way, when he charges you, turn sideways, so that way when he hits you, you'll just kind of scoop up instead of snap back. If you're, I go, what the fuck? What?
Yeah. And of course, you kept going.
Yeah, like a dummy. So the bull bat went back in, and I decided I took a class. Let's see what EMT class at Cochise College.
Yeah, good old Cochise.
And one of the firemen were teaching a class, and he says, talking about all these jobs and what you could do with it. And he says, the fire department, we work 24 on, 24 off, and then we get 4 days off. It's like you work 10 days a month. That's the job for me.
Yeah.
So I got on the phone and called up every city in the state, and nobody's hiring.
Yeah.
So I called up Santa Fe, New Mexico, and they said, yeah, we're hiring. So I went over there and tested and made the cut, and then went through their academy.
Yeah.
And then we were there for a year, and she worked in a pet shop. And I worked on the pet shop with her, on my off days. And then eventually, I guess it closed, I don't know, but then she got a job somewhere else. And we were there for a few months. Finally, we couldn't stay. It was just too expensive. So we packed up, moved back here. And then I went to Oklahoma horseshoeing school for 3 months,
Did you really? So you learned how to actually do the job yourself?
Yeah.
And this whole time is fighting in your future, or is this like, were you trying to be like, no shit, I'm gonna try to be a firefighter?
No, that was done. I was done.
Yeah.
Because I tried the boxing thing, and
Yeah.
my wife wasn't supporting me, and her mother wasn't supporting. Her mother bring her in to come to visit and go in the other room and whisper in her ear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's
Trouble afoot.
Yeah. There's nothing positive coming out of that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can meet up with a lot of trouble. So the business part of it, though, like, how do you learn to manage all of that and promote yourself well and get paid the right amount of money? I mean, I would imagine as a young fighter coming up, you don't get paid a lot. And you probably, when you account for all your expenses, even when you're a big fighter, you probably don't get paid like a real valuable amount. Like, yes, it's millions of dollars, but the guys who aren't that huge, you still got to pay all these people. People are relying on you for their livelihood. Again, back to this whole thing where hotel rooms, all that stuff. Like, you need to say, oh, I need like twice as much money to actually do this, because when I'm older, I need to have money around.
Well, back in the tournament days,
Yeah.
you were paid $500 for that first round, to walk through the door, walk through the gate, $500. And then if you worked hard enough and you knew what you're doing, you could advance. And,
Maybe get paid again.
Yeah.
Did you like the Grand Prix style?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Yeah, loved the tournament format. You get to see those story. It's a one night story, but it's a story nonetheless.
Yeah. The K1 thing, for the people that are listening, if you don't know, you go in and you have a fight, and then if you win, you advance. But as you go up, you're having multiple fights. And so you might commonly see like the guy that wins is like, I can't continue. My arm is broken or whatever. I won this fight, but however, and so like one of the guys that didn't win ends up coming into the ring.
Or an alternate,
an alternate,
UFC was smart back then. They would have, 4 or 6 alternates. Yeah. Sometimes the alternates got hurt too.
Yeah.
It was like when I lost to Coleman that night.
Yeah.
Everybody was hurt, and Art Davies come up to me. I had trained Scott Ferrazzo for his fight against Tank Abbott, That's all he wanted to do was beat Tank Abbott. So I had trained him for that. And then, because they had... Art had called me up a couple months earlier and said, Don, I'm going to suspend you. I said, what? He said, because I got hurt against Coleman pretty bad. He said, yeah, we're going to suspend you. You're not going to let you fight this tournament. I said, Art, there's no fucking rules. What do you mean you're going to suspend me? What's the basis for this?
Yeah.
But, Art's a strong man.
Yeah.
He just going to bend. And then that night, after I saw Scott get carted off, in an ambulance because of dehydration, Art came up to me and said, Don, we're out of fighters. You want to fight?
Unsuspended.
Yeah. Art, I thought I was suspended.
Yeah.
So we can change that real fast.
Yeah.
And he walked off, and then next thing I know, they're in there announcing that, they're going to do an exhibition. I was like, shit.
Is that a business decision for you, or is that a competitive impulse for you when they come and they show up and you're ready to go? Like, is there any part of your business brain that turns on and goes, oh, we're going to get paid, and then here's what's going to happen? Or you're like, yeah, of course, I'm a fighter, I fight.
Right. Yeah. No, it's competition. Yeah. I was like, yeah, okay. But, then of course you go, fuck, I can pinch him for some more money,
Yeah.
But, nowadays, people call up and say, hey, do you want to fight on this card? Well, how much am I going to get paid? They're not fighters, they're negotiators,
right.
Yeah. I want to go to fucking law school.
Yeah. Law school. Yeah. But I mean, they do got to get paid though. That business part of it does matter.
Right. You don't want to lose money.
Right.
But you say, yeah, I'll take the fight. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's it against? How much I'm going to get paid?
Yeah. And then, so when you get offered a fight, do you really even care who it is? I mean, as long as they're within your weight class and everything, which is
not back then. No,
Yeah.
There was no weight class back then.
Right. Yeah. Just whoever.
I didn't care, because in my mind I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof.
You were. Just
Yeah,
so you know.
yeah,
Well, we
well,
saw
thanks,
you.
Thanks. Then I got hurt and it all went to hell.
Yeah, when you see the Gracie brothers come out and do what they do, did that make any sense to you? Because I know as a kid watching it, I grew up on watching movies and Rocky, that kind of thing, and I'm like, what is? He's just hugging this guy. Why is he quitting? It didn't make sense to me. Had you seen that kind of? Did you know what you were seeing?
No, I did not know. I had done judo for a couple years, so I knew Newaza groundwork, but not at that level to where. You're not trying to escape,
Yeah.
I mean, jiu-jitsu's all newaza, all groundwork.
Yeah.
And they jump on you and try and pull you down. What the fuck is that shit? You know?
Yeah.
It's, that's what you're going to get punched, you know?
And then you do things, and you're like, "Oh, thank you for this arm," and you're like, "Why is my arm bending?" Ow!
Yeah.
It's a
wait. It's not supposed to happen, Like when Frank Shamrock, got taken down by Kevin Jackson. Kevin Jackson's a great amateur wrestler. A couple times national champ, Olympic gold medalist. Took him down. Boom. Next thing you know, he's getting an armbar. They just, they just don't plan for it.
There are so many different ways to approach the fighting thing. When you look around, think about Rulon Gardner going against Alexei Karelin and winning, largely because he's an enormous human and was super sweaty. And Alexei is plenty strong, but you just can only do so much with someone, he could never get him in a position to do things. Everybody else in that tournament, he was throwing them on their heads.
Right.
So when you looked out and you saw your peers out there who are doing things, you were like, man, I wish I could do that. Or holy shit, that's incredible. How in the world does he do it? What are some of those things that stand out?
Oh, yeah. When Marco Huas hit the scene, was that amazing? He came in and chopped everybody down with those fucking leg kicks,
Yeah.
And Oleg with that roll through, knee bar, I mean, those things you go, damn, that's impressive.
Yeah. I saw a K1 in Vegas. It was great. My friends really didn't know about K1 very much. I'm like, you're going to love this. And so just all the big names were there. Bob Sapp was there, but he wasn't fighting. He was just getting paid to stand around.
I love Bob. He's great.
That is an enormous guy.
He is great. He's a big old boy.
They had a guy coming up. He was fighting, and you could see their styles, right, as they go through the Grand Prix thing. And he was an axe kick guy, but he could put that foot up there and just hold it.
Yeah.
And then you just wait, and you're like, oh, shit, that thing's coming down. And then he would just keep dropping that, and then until he hit it.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, and then that would be fight over,
Yeah.
And he fought against the guy that was just a huge hook machine, kind of like an Ernie Shaver kind of guy. And he's like, if he hits you, you were going to get folded up. And it was like the axe kick versus the hook. And finally, the axe kick landed and blew the guy's nose out. Incredible to see just these totally different approaches to solving this problem.
I'm impressed that you know who Ernie Shavers is.
Yeah. Well, Ernie Shavers has that great story when he was sparring with Sly Stallone.
Yeah.
And Sly's like, everybody go home. I got punched in the kidney.
He broke his ribs, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because I remember, let's see, Cormier was going to fight that black fella who rubbed his belly, from Detroit, I think he is, Good on the interviews. Guy's great on the stick, but fighting for a role. And I called up Cormier and said, hey, if you're going to do the Bum of the Month Club, like Joe Louis did, put me in there,
Let me take a beat.
I think he thought I was calling him Bum of the Month, Because I said, just like Joe Louis, and everybody's like, who the fuck is Joe Louis?
Yeah.
It's like, man, you people don't know your history of your sport world.
I mean, I'm not a master of the fighting world thing, but you have to know Joe Louis, Bum of the Month, like these tomato cans up, and Max Schmeling, and all of that. Yeah, there was a long lineage of these fighters, like Sugar Ray Robinson. And seeing what
Jake LaMotta, Roberto Duran. Oh my God, Marvin Hagler. I love watching Marvin Hagler fight.
Who did you like from the eras that when you were younger and watching guys fight? Who did you like to watch?
Shit, I used to watch Hagler and Hearns and Leonard. Those were great fights. Boom Boom Mancini, Vinny Pazienza. I mean, they're great fights. The kid, is it Fensick, the guy down from Australia who broke both his hands, and still kept fighting,
That's tough. Yeah, I like those. Mickey Ward and Arturo Gatti fights.
Yeah.
Those were great fights. Just guys throwing down. Yeah, it's such a. Man, it puts me in my like.
Yeah.
Back into time, and you think about all those incredible fighters.
I remember they made the comparison, my fight with Takayama.
Yeah.
Dave Meltzer, a Wrestling Observer, he compared that fight to the Ali Frazier Thrilla in Manila, he said, the Frye Takayama fight was this generation's Thrilla in Manila,
Yeah.
That's a compliment.
Absolutely.
I remember when I used to go out for GLC 2000, Luke Holtzman, Gedreuton, and I would do the trade shows, and the Arnold and the Olympia and all that. And we're there, and there's some guy across, just sitting there staring at me for like a half hour, 45 minutes, and finally go, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Come here, come over here." And he says, "Man, I didn't believe it was you." He says, he says, I'm a veteran, combat veteran. He says, we used to throw your VHS, your tape, in the VHS, and watch your fights, and then we go out and slaughter people, man. He says, so we get all jacked up watching you fight. That's the greatest compliment I ever got, man.
Yeah, no, come on, you're super inspiring. That's why it's incredible to be here talking with you. I was thinking about that Meldrick Taylor Julio Cesar Chavez fight. That was a car wreck for 12 rounds.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know about this fight, Dan, but Meldrick Taylor is basically winning and outclassing Julio Cesar Chavez, except for the last 8 seconds of the fight when he had just gassed completely and was literally never the same fighter again. Like, he still fought a little bit, still won, but it was such a battle. It was like a...
What about when Julio Cesar Chavez fought... God, you just said his name. The Puerto Rican guy.
Arturo Gatti?
No. He got killed in a drug thing. I want to say it. I want to tell you the story,
Yeah.
Goes with what we're talking about. What the fuck is his name?
Who did he fight? Let me try to use
He fought everybody. He was the world champion for a bit, No.
This is a Puerto Rican guy.
Puerto Rican guy. Middleweight or, welterweight or... Camacho, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Macho Camacho.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
When Hector Camacho fought Cesar Chavez, and he had mouthed off like he always does. And Julio Cesar Chavez beat the fucking piss out of him, and he's about to go down, and he'd back up. He'd go over the corner and just stand there and bounce up and down and stay warm.
Yeah.
And let the referee give the standing count. Okay. Yeah. And every time he's about to put him down, he'd stop, he'd back up, go back in the corner.
Give him a whooping.
Yeah. Tortured him, man. Just crucified him.
Yeah. And to hit Camacho that much at all was incredible because he was hard to hit.
He was a great fighter.
Yeah,
boxer.
he was a
great boxer. That's catch yourself saying that now. The difference between a fighter and a boxer.
Yeah,
a huge difference.
What do you think of guys that are like crossing over and doing other things like
the Irishman, McGregor?
Yeah. So McGregor goes over to the professional fighting side, the boxing side. And he does all right, but there's so much to Texas.
God bless him. He did fantastic.
Yeah.
$100 million.
Wow.
He's got his own Irish, his own Irish whiskey.
Yeah.
God bless him. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he stole the Ric Flair, personality.
Right. Yeah.
It took it to a whole new level.
Yeah, that's true. But the tactical part of the fight and the strategic part of the fight, he was never in the strategic part. He came in and did his work and he was showing off. But there was a long game that was being played.
Yeah, you can't change gears. It's like drag racing versus NASCAR or Indy.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's a race. It's a race car.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of race.
Right.
A whole different kind of race.
Yeah, and again, there's 100 ways to do this. You can be the guy that's impossible to hit, the guy that's the master strategic guy, the other guy that's like, I'm just going to stand in the middle of the ring and throw.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ways to do it. It's crazy. So tell me what you're working on now. You've got a couple different projects. The VIB, yeah. Tell me about that.
Virtual
internet
internet
protocol.
Protocol, Virtual Internet Protocol, yeah.
VIP.
Tommy Ranger and Dan Severin and Art Martori, and myself, we were doing this, and then we're going to do Predators predictions again, I hope.
Good.
Stuart Wilson owns Predators predictions.
Nice. All right.
He was the original producer of it.
Right.
Even though I'm the Predator, he owns the show.
Yeah.
And so we're looking to bring that back onto the TV station. It's going to carry. Dan and I are going to have a talk show. Then we're going to do the VIP, and then we're going to do Predators predictions. I'm going to see what else. We can bring.
Are you feeling good enough to start getting out and like going to events and doing some appearances, or
not yet?
Not yet. You're getting there though.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, I know you've been fighting hard at trying to get better.
Doing the physical therapies improved me a lot. A lot. I still got a lot of pain. As you can see.
Yeah.
And
what doesn't hurt on you? Like Indiana Jones.
Here. Everything hurts, but had a fun life.
Yeah,
had a real fun life.
Yeah. When you look at the life and the fun that you've had, I mean, you're a superstar around the world. Like, there's so many places where you go, and like, holy shit, there you are. For people that say that about you, the guy that was the firefighter in Santa Fe, you tell them that, like, people are going to go, holy shit, that's Don Frye. And they're going to whisper your name. Yeah. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I was a firefighter before I got in the fight game,
Yeah.
So, but afterwards, I saw Danny Lurie. There's Danny and Michael Lurie. They were in the same class as I was, graduating class from the fire department. And I saw him up in Vegas at the Arnold Classic. I'm not sure, but his kids were doing, jiu-jitsu. And so he come over there and talked to me, He says, everybody remembers you and talks about this and this, Well,
it's good to see you improving. I know we've been talking for, over a year even now. And just, to see you in this good condition, it's a sign for the future is good.
Well, I almost cashed in my chips a couple of times last year, I had couple real bad infections, and one time last year, I had to call the fire department to carry me in, take me in a couple of times.
Yeah.
And first I went to a hospital, which didn't do anything for me, give me some, now I can't even remember the name of the steroid. Search the P.
Well, they gave you a steroid shot.
Yeah, no, the pills, but take away the swelling, and then I could walk. Because I couldn't walk, couldn't feel my legs. Man. And then the next time I said, no, take me prednisone. Give me some prednisone.
Okay.
And then next time I said, no, take me to Banner. And I went to Banner, and they ran tests on me, and did the MRI, and they couldn't find the problem, but they knew there was something wrong. And so I got sent to a old folks home, and I woke up a few times at 4:30 in the morning, and I'm just screaming, and pissing myself, And I said, I need some fun for the pain. They say, you're not due for medicine for 2 more hours. Yeah. Turn out the light, close the door, and go down the hallway,
Yeah.
And I called up Jeff. Come get me out of this shit, and they did the MRI and they couldn't find anything, but then they had one of their interns go through it sheet by sheet, Then they found an infection. Because first they did find an infection is on both sides of my spine. They cut it out. But then I went back in, and that's when they couldn't find it. And then they went through it sheet by sheet, and they found it as infection inside the spinal cord.
Oh, shit.
And so they got in there, and they cut open the membrane, and all this pus kept flying out of the membrane.
Jesus Christ, man. You barely survived.
That's a rare one, they said.
Yeah. Well, you're not half-assing anything. But you're feeling like you're still getting better.
When I fuck up, I fuck up.
Yeah.
Big level.
That's my guy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting better. Thank God.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get my act together, move back into my own house here.
Yeah. The and are you able to take pain medication, or do you have to be really careful with that?
No, careful for what reason?
Yeah. Well, just, you don't want it to get out of control, and then all of a sudden now you have another problem,
Part not to handle one thing at a time.
thing at a time, yeah.
I gotta cross that bridge when I come to it, and then I can put out that fire once I get across that bridge.
Yeah, multiple fires.
I'm not gonna worry about the fire until from this side of the river.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time and hanging out with us out here in Sierra Vista and everything. I'm looking forward to talking with you and Dan some more. It's just neat to be able to just dive in and just, share this time with you. Are you in any way on social media at all right now? Or are you still kind of about to launch still?
Still waiting for them to launch. I mean, right now, I'm just, I had May 2010, May 2011, I had 5 back surgeries. Mm-hmm. And then I think in June 2012, I had the 6th. They had fused 3 vertebrae, so they tore it out and fused 10. And then
Jesus Christ,
I went along for about a year and a half. Then my back started hurting real bad, and I couldn't stand up, couldn't figure out, what the hell's wrong with me. They fused my back. I should be good. What happened? And so I started taking more pills. I taking 10 pills a day, drinking a half a bottle or a bottle a day. And lost my family over it, and then I got an x-ray in June of 2016 over there in Beverly Hills, Cedars-Sinai, and Dr. Goldstein looked at it and said, well, there's a problem there, dumbass, you broke your rods, So I'd walked around for 2 years broken rods.
Yeah.
And
you broke the thing that was for your broken back.
Yeah, yeah.
So you unfused yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And so then I went in for the surgery. They couldn't do it until September. So I had, another 5 months, dragging my leg and all that. And they did the surgery. It was a 10-hour surgery and then 3 more hours to clean up the scar tissue that had built up from the broken rods.
Right.
Trying to dig their way out of my back.
That sounds comfortable.
Yeah. That's why I was such a raging asshole for, a couple of years.
Is this the hardest fight of your life?
Yeah, yeah. And then I was there for about 4 days, felt good. They checked me out. Bye, thanks for having me. Went out in the parking lot. I had a stroke, brain hemorrhage, stroke. Fuck. And then they brought me back in, put me in a medically induced coma for 3 weeks. And during that time, I got another infection, so they did a couple surgeries on me while I was in the infection or in the ICU. Finally woke, they pulled me out of the coma, and I was in a rehab there for 2 months, and then came back home and wasn't aware that my ex-wife had put a restraining order on me. So I tried calling her, and contacting. Next thing I know, I'm in jail. And, I mean, I'm sure I knew it. I just forgot,
Yeah, you've been busy.
You tend to forget things when you're in a coma, They put me on probation for a year and a half. And while I was like, oh, how am I going to make it? All that. And then all of a sudden, I'm back in the hospital. The infection came back, and I was in the hospital, like I said, last year for 7 months on and off. Yeah.
Fuck. That's crazy. Yeah, you're right. Like, you almost cast your chips in a couple of times. Any one of those things could have gone sideways.
They'd have killed a real human being,
Yeah. Well, it's incredible, man. You are a tough dude, and I'm glad that you're continuing to fight it and get better, man. It's awesome. I am looking forward to seeing what's next with you.
Yeah, it's like that. People sit there, hey, I saw that fight against that big, tall, blonde-haired Chinese guy. No, he's Japanese. You're tough. You're real tough. That's like they said in boxing. That's not something you want to be known for, being able to take a punch.
You're a winner. Well, you are a winner. You are a Hall of Famer. And thank you, man, for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, partner.